Hi ATEEZ Society, welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet. Today we are checking out ATEEZ San Warriors dance performance, which I'm scared of because I looked at the thumbnail. So I don't know if I'm prepared for this, but y'all wanted me to check it out, so here we are. I don't know if there's anything else for me to further say. I'm just like, this makes me scared for my sanity, but we're gonna do it, I guess. I feel like I just have to remind myself that this is the same man who really loves plushies, right? Like, I just have to keep that at the front of my mind as I go through this so that I can just keep myself from descending into depths of insanity. It's fine. See, like that. Unnecessary. Black and white is choice. Sir.
As a child, you would wait and watch from far away, but you always knew that you'd be the one to work while they all play.
Ooh, okay, I locked in a little bit. First off, I just want to know if he owns clothing. I'm just curious because it seems like he doesn't really understand how shirts work, and I feel like that would be like a pretty easy thing to explain to him. So we had the first shot, which is like a shot, I understand. But I was like, he's breathing, which makes me feel like, first off, I was like, what's the necessity of that? But then we got into the choreo and you have that like tension in these movements that feels very much like this like breathing motion. And I really love the tension that he has in those movements. This is unnecessary. Okay, just, sir, there's nowhere for me to rewind to. My point is he has some good tension in some of his movements and some good facial expressions. I'm trying to stay on topic. Shout out to all the dancers too. Good like isolations.
As a child, you would wait and watch from far away, but you always knew that you'd be the one to work while they all
like hand details. Boy, facial expression. Whoa, the way that he just falls in a bunch of choreo, and I know there's some editing here, but multiple like performances that I've seen of him now where he just like falls and I'm like, sir, no, don't do that. I'm concerned. I like how he loosens up his body language for that too. Whoa, that's a really cool image. Ooh, okay, I was just saying, like, he had like really loose movements in comparison to some more like rigid, hard-hitting ones for the dancers. And this one he had like really rigid, like he's really hitting those movements. And I was saying in his Hala Hala fan cam how I like that he has like a bit of recoil to his movements a lot, but it's a lot more contained in just that little part. And the image of him walking out with all of the dancers like around him, there's something very like kinetic and almost, I don't know, like animalistic in the way that like they're moving is like super cool image. Right? It's like jittery for those drums. I love the little recoil there. Great big movements too for that. Whoa, boy, do not snarl and then smirk at me. Okay, there's nowhere for me to rewind to, so you're just gonna have to bear with me having coherent thoughts while he's looking at me like that, okay? But I love that we have a bit more of a contained hydraulic to his, I always say hydraulic, but that recoil in his movements, it's like really close in because we have that much faster drum fill that he's hitting on. And I love how we're getting these like really big movements on these like loud drums. Wide movements for a lot of the chorus too, which I think is really interesting given the kind of like hand detail things we were getting, a little more closer to the body, a little more like minute in the details leading up to that point. And then these really wide, powerful movements for the chorus is a great contrast. And then he just had a spin there where he led with his head. And I was talking earlier, I like that like the way that he places his head while he's dancing, which sounds like a weird detail for me to pick out, but the way that he places his head while he dances is really interesting. There's something so deliberate in the way that he does it. And I feel like a lot of the times performers, it's like an afterthought. It's like you want to make sure that people can see your face, and that's pretty much like the first thing that you're gonna check off for where your head is placed. And then a lot of the time it's like one of the last things that you're thinking about when you're going through figuring out how the motions are going to work, whether or not that's choreography or like pantomime or whatever. It tends to be put to the wayside until those really like fine details are ironed out, but it feels like something that he really incorporates into his movement, and I think that's so interesting. See that, like, see, live with the head there, like there's a whip movement to it. Facial expressions. Solo movement.
Above the rest, improve yourself, your spirit never dies.
Ooh, facial expressions. And I know, like, demon lines, so that's what we're dealing with. Great acting. And then see how he, like, leads with the head movements in a bunch of this. And, like, the way that you can feel the tension in his movements, especially with some of the, like, struggle that's coming through it. I love that he just has, like, a bunch of tension. And, like I was saying, again, with the Hala Hala performance, I'm pulling from that because I haven't had a lot of time to zero in on him as a performer. And that's, like, the main one where I've seen him performing. Again, we had these really almost, like, sporadic movements. There was something very chaotic in a bunch of that because of the energy level, whereas like this feels like a contained movement, right? Having that tension, it almost feels like pulling like toffee, right? With a bunch of those movements is like the resistance in everything that he's doing is so good.
When you have to rise above the rest, improve yourself, your spirit never dies.
Like the way that he bends his body back for that. I like the chain detail too. Whoa. Oh, that's a good image. Like the boy, calm down. But the interlock of the arms like around him so you can like just see his head there. Great framing for that formation. This is more cinematic than I was expecting. Good spin. See, like, I know there's some, like, editing, but the... Oh, wait. I was like, I know there's some editing, but I love the tension. Again, right? There's, like, this pulling, right? There's resistance behind those movements, and that's so good for this, like, the story of this, of, like, being held back, and then, like, finally breaking out of it. And then we had the good, like, spin for part of it. I think there might have been, like, a little bit of an aerial on it. He might have just been spinning on, like, the 1 foot lightly, though. And then that, again, hitting those drums. Sorry. Just one more. Ooh, that kick up. Great tension to that movement, too. Sorry, like great tension in that movement of him like almost like crying out, but I also love that we have this huge expression on that, right? Big wide movements, right? Full extension with like his arms, almost full extension. And then afterwards, there's this closing up, right? And I feel like that's so indicative of the emotion of like when you hit that breaking point, and then afterwards, there's almost this like calm after it. And I really like that you can see that like in his facial expression, the way that he brings his body language in before going to the next part of the choreo. It's a great use of the dynamics and like the energy fluctuations. I talked before about how he's really good at managing fluctuations in energy, but also it's just a great like storytelling thing, like the emotion of that, like having that burst of emotion in direct contrast to some of that like calm and control. Especially him kneeling while everyone's standing. Ooh, great having him control that. Great, like, stutter. Again, the way that he uses his head motions, he, like, whips his head around for a bunch of this. And there's something almost, I don't know, animalistic or, like, predator about that, like, having this leading with that movement or something, like, very controlled about it, right? Because the head and the face is, like, a very vulnerable part. So a lot of the time when you're feeling, like, defensive, if you want, like, something that feels like a defensive movement, you'll cover your face or you'll block your face in some way. So having these, like, really, like, whipping movements of his head is, like again, some of that chaos coming through that's being contained, but also is showing a match of, like, bravery or confidence in his movements, right? Because he's not, like, blocking anything around, like, his head. He's, like, leading with it. So it's really cool storytelling. Shout out to the choreographers. I feel like we had some credits for it. for the choreography that was done. Some of it's San. That's cool. Shout out to putting the choreography together because it's really cool. I like using the different camera angles and stuff. It's like a much different beast than like a front camera for a performance, right? Love that stutter on the guitar. And like how these movements of pushing other people down. Ooh, the kick, great silhouettes too, like the body shape there. Some of the kind of like more chaotic movements coming through in his choreo here. Ooh. I love the use of the kicks is really interesting too. Like it works really well with the camera, and there's speaking of, but there's also something like again like barely contained about that to have this kick of putting distance between yourself. A kick is a really like long, wide movement, so putting distance between you and whatever is like trying to constrain you. Really cool. I also like the moon phases on his arm. I like that too, like being hit again and then he kicks out. Catch your breath. Ooh, I love having that like movement across like where the heart is, right? Of again, the storytelling of taking like the thing that is going to keep you going is usually what is at like the heart of why you're doing something. And I love that aggression to that of almost the exhaustion threatening to kick in, right? Where we have him like stop, catch his breath, but it's you can't knock me down because I know the thing that is motivating me forward, pushing me forward. Ooh, that drop. Okay, dancer. Whoa, that detail on like the dang footwork. I was like the detail on like the knees for the musicality. There's so much footwork like so much happening. Yeah, stand tall after that. And catch your breath. Dang. Especially like I was noticing right there at the end with the formations. We had so many formations early on where everyone was like circling around him, right? Like he was surrounded and isolated at the same time. Everyone else had very similar like costumes to each other. They blended in as like a full force with each other, and that he stuck out and they were like circling around him, containing him. And then they're all like lined up around him. It's like they're all rallying behind him. And I think that's so interesting too, to have a shift in dynamic of you're going to contain me to begin with. You're going to push me down. You're going to tell me that I can't do it. And then at the end, you're going to be following my lead. And we had that when he was like walking out and they were all following him, but there was still some chaos to the movements of the dancers, right? He hadn't quite gotten control yet. Whereas like at the end, there's this definite feeling of like control and everyone's kind of following along with his movements. Incredible performance. Like again, putting aside the fact that like, does he know how clothes work? Does he understand that a shirt is a piece of clothing that one can wear? I'm just curious. But beyond that, incredible performance, and to see that he worked on some of the choreo also makes me super impressed. I'm gonna be so honest, and I think I brought this up in like other things, but San surprised me getting into ATEEZ because I had this, I don't know, in misconception, I guess, in my brain that his background wasn't dancing. Like in my brain, I was like, oh, he's a dancer in the group. And I don't know why that was, other than I guess I've just seen some clips here and there before I got into ATEEZ of him dancing. I'm like, oh, that's a dancer, obviously. And then to learn that that's like not what his role was prior to getting into ATEEZ, like he doesn't have an extensive background as a dancer, shocked me. And getting to see something like this, I'm like, the performance of it, right? It's not just the choreography, which him having a hand in is great. It's not just the like setting and the like editing and the camera work. Despite what we may feel as fans about the costume choices, they fit really well with what's going on in the storytelling. Again, like these moments of like characterization in him going throughout. Like, as much as I can say, oh, does he know how clothes work? I think the fact that he is becoming less restrained throughout the entire thing is like part of that, right? We have the one costume where he has like the chains like literally coiled around his arms, right? And he's being very much contained within the choreo whilst wearing that outfit. And then when that isn't there anymore, when he loses that jacket, he finally has some like control and freedom, right? So I understand the storytelling behind it. There feels like so much intentionality to this performance that makes me really excited. Like, I feel like that's probably coming off of me just being like, ooh, wait, as just like a performer. It's a little bit tricky because we do have like camera motions and editing and stuff, and that just like dictates a lot of the stuff about what my notes can be. And considering my background is primarily in like stage performance, what I can say about performing for camera is like very little, right? So I would love to get to see like a live performance if there is one. I don't know if there is, because it feels like a lot of this was choreographed to be in video form. It doesn't mean that couldn't be like transposed into something that could be for like a live audience, but it's so good. Like, I totally understand why people are like, you have to watch it. Like, not just as the spectacle of it, but also because it really shows off his performing chops. And I loved that so much. I still want to see something of him doing maybe something a little bit slower, but it's really interesting to see this in contrast to Hala Hala. Like, the energy of Hala Hala is like very intentional in the way that he's putting in this like chaotic, barely restrained kind of motion to it. And like really letting those like that recoil to his movements just take over, because it adds to that energy level. Whereas like this one, it's a very contained, controlled movement. And when he has those moments of some of that chaos coming through, it's because he's like starting to break those restraints, or he's like starting to like chafe at the idea of being contained. So good. I loved that so much. And I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go to my previous reactions, or you can subscribe to this next time I post an ATEEZ reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.